Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're back with another episode of Stock Market Recap. And today we had a pretty big day in the stock markets as Jerome Powell gave us his rate cut decision, in which he said no cuts, but stocks are going up anyway. So we're going to talk about all that good stuff in this video. Hope you stick around and enjoy. Alright, so I've pulled up the stock screener for the day. As you can see, pretty much green all across the board, across from a couple sectors, but all the growth names, all the semiconductors, all tech is green, pretty much, except Intel, which we'll talk about in a bit. But the main story of the day was Jerome Powell giving us no cuts, which was actually expected. The chance of no cut was 98%, compared to 2% when it comes to getting a cut. And the more important part of the conference was the Q&A, which happens after JPOW gives his opening remarks, and he really didn't seem too worried about the economy right now. A lot of reporters were kind of asking him about what he thinks of tariffs or any other aspects of the Trump administration, which a lot of people have speculated that could cause a recession or something like that. Um, but yeah, he basically refuted all those claims, and he sounded really confident in his assessment of the economy, and therefore we're seeing a boost in stocks. S&P was up 1% today. The Nasdaq, I think it was up maybe 1.5%. So it was overall a great day, and we see some of the losers start to gain some momentum, like Tesla and Palantir. These are stocks that haven't done so well lately, and today they're getting a boost, which could suggest that we're kind of bottoming out, which is definitely possible considering, we've been on a rough decline lately ever since really Trump started talking about tariffs, which was around a month ago at this point. But he actually hasn't talked about tariffs for 5 days now, which is pretty long streak for him. He tends to, tweet about this stuff all the time. Even if he doesn't go through with them, like he's gonna use them as a way of negotiation with other countries, and I think long term, I I I I agree with this plan, and I think stock market will be fine. But obviously, in the short term, nobody really knows what's going on, so there's a lot of fear, and that's why we've seen some selling off. So let me just switch to the one month chart here. So yeah, you can see like we've just gone from a completely green board on the daily chart. Now it's all red. So Nvidia's down 15%, Google's down 10, Meta's down 18, Tesla's down 30. It's just kind of disaster for all the tech stocks and the Max 7 especially. But there are a lot of signs that we are bottoming out. So this pain could, I think we experienced like the worst of it. I don't think we're gonna get much worse than this, unless you think that we're gonna have like a 2022 type of bear market where you have Nvidia going down 50-60% and the S&P going down 25%. But I think that's unlikely, not this year at least. So here I've pulled up the biggest winners in the S&P today, and up first we have Boeing. So the Boeing CEO actually announced that he's raising his outlook for next year, or for future quarters this year too, and that sent the stock flying. And Boeing did not have a great 2024. I think it was down around 30%, 50% at one point. Then it rallied when Trump won in November. But yeah, it hasn't been doing great lately. So it's nice seeing this boost. Now, SMCI, if you watched yesterday's video, SMCI was, I think, the number one loser yesterday. And, SMCI is just a very volatile stock. And, you'll usually see it jump 5-10%, like out of nowhere. And then at the same time, it also just drops 5-10% on no news. That's just kind of what it tends to do. So that's pretty normal. And then up third, we have Royal Caribbean. They were also down a lot yesterday. So I think this is just like a relief rally for them because none of the cruise lines have done really well. I talked about this yesterday a little bit, but basically, Delta Airlines cut their guidance for next year or for next quarter, I guess, and that's been hurting all the airlines, but also the cruise lines. So, but today it seems like they're getting a bit of a boost, which is nice to see. Now, if we look at the losers, I mean, we have Intel on top. Intel was actually one of the winners yesterday, but now they just went down 7%, and there is a reason to this. Basically, TSM, Taiwan Semiconductor, announced that they're not really looking to buy Intel or work with Intel or anything like that. They just don't want anything to do with Intel. And there's been rumors about TSM potentially acquiring Intel, but I guess that's not in the works anymore. So that's why we're seeing a pretty sharp decline on Intel today. It's still up quite a lot for the month. I think it's up like 9%, but obviously it's down significantly from its all-time highs, which actually happened in 2000, back during the dot-com bubble. And I think it reached like $80, and it actually never recovered. It got really close in 2023, but then 2024 it just absolutely collapsed. It went down 60%, lost most of its value. And yeah, Intel really, they're just not really innovating right now. I mean, they're not going anywhere, but at the same time, like, there's nothing exciting about them compared to something like Nvidia or even TSM. So personally, I'm not really buying Intel here. I think it could continue to go down. It's probably going to be at some point it's going to get too cheap to ignore, but I don't know if that point is here yet. I guess we'll just have to see what the stock does moving forward. So I did also want to talk a bit about Tesla. Tesla was up today quite nicely. I guess we'll see how it plays out. There's still a lot of interesting things that could happen between now and I guess Tesla's earnings report, which is I believe in a month. The earnings report is going to be very important, I think. I don't think it's going to be a good earnings report. Not at all, actually. I think they're going to miss pretty badly. It's just a question of will the street kind of is it priced in basically. That's the argument right now. And I mean, I personally think it is, but at the same time the stock is very expensive, on traditional metrics. So could go further down, but like if it starts getting into like the 150s or like the 130s even, like that's when I would get interested to start buying a lot of it. But for now, I think it's just gonna chill in like the 220s to 240s, somewhere in that area. I don't necessarily think it's gonna go to the moon. I mean, it's possible we get a dead cat bounce, and maybe it does go to the moon. I don't know. Well, actually, it did literally go to the moon. Not Tesla, but Elon Musk. I don't know if you guys saw that. Uh, SpaceX actually sent that rocket, and they saved the astronauts that were stuck in space for like 9 months, and that was pretty incredible. So maybe now it's Tesla's turn to go to the moon. One more quick thing I did just want to mention: Nvidia was actually up way more earlier in the day. It was up like 4% at the peak of the day, like pretty much right before JPOW ended his meeting. And as soon as the meeting ended, like immediately all the Nvidia sellers jumped in, started selling like crazy. So they dropped the price like 2% in the last 15 minutes or so, which I mean, one of these days Nvidia's just going to the moon and all these bears are going to miss out and they're going to regret selling. I mean, Nvidia's GTCs this week and they announced so many cool things that I talked about in the previous episode. You can check that out if you want to know more about it. But I mean, this company, the things they're doing, it's absolutely amazing, and their revenues through the roof. I mean, 80% growth for $3 trillion company. I mean, that's something else. I think this stock easily gets to all-time highs as soon as the street wakes up and stops like pricing in a recession or whatever they're thinking right now, because 117 is just wild. But yeah, I guess we'll see when the buyers step in. All right, that's probably gonna do for today. Hope everyone enjoyed, and if you enjoyed, feel free to slap a like and maybe even subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Um, and hope you tune in tomorrow for the next episode. Stock market recap. Bye, everyone.